The clink of fine crystal and the low murmur of million-dollar deals filled the air at Elysium, Manhattan's most exclusive rooftop restaurant perched above Fifth Avenue, with its sweeping views of the glittering city below. Joseph Harrington, the 47-year-old billionaire founder of Harrington Innovations, leaned back in his velvet chair, his tailored charcoal suit immaculate, and fixed his cold blue eyes on the young waiter serving his table of conservative investors. "You there, the one with that little rainbow pin. Do you think this is some kind of parade or a place for serious men to conduct business?" he boomed, his voice carrying across the linen-draped tables, drawing sharp laughs from the gray-haired executives around him. Samuel froze for a split second, the heavy silver tray balanced perfectly in his hands, his heart slamming against his ribs like a trapped bird. At 28, he had heard worse on these polished floors where power dressed in suits and prejudice hid behind smiles. But the words still sliced deep, reminding him of every door slammed in his face since he had come out at 19. "I'm here to make your evening perfect, sir," Samuel answered, his tone steady and professional, the faint Queen's accent softened by years of customer service. As he stepped forward to refill the Bordeaux glasses with precise, practiced movements, Joseph waved a dismissive hand, the heavy gold watch on his wrist catching the chandelier light. "Just do your job and keep your lifestyle in the kitchen where it belongs. Real men close deals, not flirt with them." The table erupted in chuckles again, one investor clapping Joseph on the shoulder as if he had delivered the punchline of the night. Samuel nodded once, his dark eyes meeting Joseph's for the briefest moment, a flicker of something like recognition passing between them that neither could place yet. Then he turned and walked back through the swinging doors into the bustling kitchen, the humiliation burning hot in his chest but his spine straight. In the back, he leaned against the stainless steel counter, breathing slow and deep while the head chef muttered support and a fellow server squeezed his arm. Samuel had built this life brick by brick after his family in Queens had struggled to accept his truth, after boyfriends had come and gone, after he had learned that dignity was the only armor that never rusted. The pin on his lapel was not for show. It was a promise to himself that he would never hide again. Meanwhile, Joseph turned back to his guests, sealing the merger with a firm handshake and a final toast, the rush of dominance still buzzing in his veins. He had learned long ago that in this world weakness was currency for the weak, and he had paid dearly to never be seen as weak. His conservative parents back in Connecticut had made that clear the day they discovered his secret college romance and threatened to cut him off unless he fixed himself. So he had fixed it, married Elena for the image, produced 2 children now away at boarding school, built an empire worth billions, and buried the boy who once loved openly under layers of boardroom armor. Yet as his driver whisked him through the glittering streets toward his Upper East Side penthouse that night, the waiter's face lingered in his mind like an unwelcome ghost, stirring a restlessness he could not name. Samuel walked the 10 blocks to the subway after his shift, the cool night air carrying the scent of street vendors and distant rain, his camera bag slung over his shoulder like a shield. In his small Brooklyn apartment, he dropped onto the worn couch, pulled out the old shoebox from under the bed, and stared at the faded photo inside. There they were, 19 and 20, arms around each other on a college beach in the Hamptons, laughing under a summer sun, the kind of innocent joy that had felt eternal until Joseph had vanished one morning with nothing but a text saying it was over, that he had to be the man his family expected. Samuel had never thrown the photo away, had carried the wound quietly while building a quiet life of night shifts and weekend shoots for indie magazines. He traced the image with a fingertip, the old pain mixing with fresh anger from the restaurant. "You thought you could erase us," he whispered to the empty room. The next morning, the video of Joseph's mockery was already trending, posted by a diner who had captured every cruel word. And Samuel watched it once, then set his jaw. He knew what he had to do, not for revenge, but for the boy in the photo who deserved to be seen. The video exploded across social media by breakfast, Hashtags like Billionaire Bigot and Elysium Shame climbing the charts while Joseph's phone buzzed nonstop on the marble island of his penthouse kitchen. He stood in his silk robe, coffee growing cold, staring at the screen as the clip played on loop, his own voice loud and clear, the waiter's calm reply, the laughter of his guests. His PR team was already calling. Damage control scripts ready. But Joseph felt something colder than anger settle in his gut, a recognition that hit harder than any headline. That waiter. Samuel. The name from the staff tag suddenly clicked with the face from a decade ago. The boy he had loved in secret dorm rooms and hidden weekends before fear had won. He slammed the phone down, heart racing. The empire he had sacrificed everything for suddenly feeling like a cage. His wife Elena, home from her charity trip, glanced up from her tablet. Joseph, this is going to be ugly. The board will want a statement. He forced a smile, the one he had perfected for cameras. I'll handle it. It's just noise, but inside the noise was deafening. Memories flooding back of stolen kisses, whispered futures, and the night he had packed his bags and walked away to save the fortune his parents controlled. Samuel woke to the same video on his feed, comments pouring in from strangers offering support, a few offering jobs. But he closed the app and headed to his day job at a small photography studio in Williamsburg, the city alive around him with yellow cabs and steaming manhole covers. His boss patted his shoulder. You handled that like a pro, kid. Proud of you. Samuel nodded. But the photo in his pocket burned like a live coal. He had scanned it the night before. The image sharp and undeniable, young Joseph and himself. Foreheads touching. The kind of quiet intimacy that no one could misinterpret. Posting it anonymously to the viral thread felt like the only honest move left. Not to destroy, but to force the truth into the light. By noon the photo was everywhere, side by side with a mockery clip. Headlines screaming, "Billionaires hidden, past exposed." Joseph saw it in his office on the 52nd floor. The floor-to-ceiling windows framing the skyline he had conquered. And the world tilted. His assistant hovered. Sir, the board is convening. Your mother called from Connecticut. He waved her out, alone with the image that proved he had once been someone else. Someone real. The price of that lie had been Samuel's broken heart, his own buried soul. And now the empire trembled. Joseph canceled all afternoon meetings, drove himself to the family estate in Connecticut as dusk fell, the familiar stone mansion looming like judgment. His mother, silver-haired and regal, met him in the library. Explain yourself. Joseph, we did not raise you for this scandal. He tried to deflect, but the photo sat between them on the oak table. Undeniable. It was college. A mistake. The words tasted like the same ones he had used 10 years ago. His mother sighed. Fix it. Or the trust fund your father left stays locked. The threat landed heavy. The same one that had forced his hand before. Back in the city, Samuel sat on his fire escape, the Brooklyn Bridge glowing in the distance, scrolling through the chaos he had unleashed, wondering if the man who had mocked him could ever face the boy he had abandoned. The city never slept, and neither did the questions. The boardroom on the 52nd floor felt smaller than ever as Joseph faced the 6 men who controlled his company's future, their faces carved from the same conservative stone as his own past. This photo is old news, he said, voice steady, but his hands gripped the edge of the mahogany table until his knuckles whitened. It changes nothing about the direction of Harrington Innovations. One investor leaned forward. It changes everything if our clients see you as unstable. Pull the gay waiter's stunt again, and we're out. Joseph nodded, promising a public apology video that never mentioned the photo's deeper truth. But inside, he felt the walls closing in, the moral cost of every denial stacking like unpaid debts. He left the meeting and drove straight to the address his private investigator had found for Samuel. A modest walk-up in Brooklyn. the kind of place Joseph had not visited in years. When Samuel opened the door, the recognition was instant and electric. "You," Joseph said, the word cracking. Samuel stepped aside, letting him in. The small living room lined with framed photographs of city streets and quiet faces. "I didn't post it to ruin you," Samuel said quietly. "I posted it so you'd remember who you were before you became this." Joseph paced, the old betrayal and new shame colliding. "I had no choice. My family, the business, everything would have collapsed." Samuel's eyes held no anger now, only a deep sadness. "We all have choices. You chose to mock me yesterday like I was nothing. The same way you left me like I was nothing." The confrontation stretched into hours, words spilling like long-held secrets. Joseph revealing the pressure that had broken him. Samuel sharing the years of quiet resilience that had rebuilt him. By midnight, Joseph left without resolution. But the seed of doubt had been planted. The price of his lie, suddenly too high to ignore. Joseph's mother arrived unannounced at the penthouse the next morning, her driver waiting downstairs. "In this nonsense," she demanded. The family portrait on the wall, watching like a sentinel. "Your daughter called from school asking if her father is gay. Fix it, or the board hears from me." Joseph stood at the window. The city he owned spread below, and for the first time the view felt empty. He met Samuel again that afternoon in a quiet corner of Central Park. Away from cameras, the leaves turning gold above them. "I never stopped thinking about you," Joseph admitted, the words costing him more than any deal. Samuel listened, then spoke of the nights he had cried after the abandonment, the family that had stood by him when his own world cracked. They talked until the sun dipped low, hands almost touching on the bench, the romantic spark flickering back to life through shared vulnerability rather than passion. Yet when Joseph reached for Samuel's hand, fear won again, and he pulled away. "I can't lose everything." Samuel nodded, the old wound reopening. "Then maybe you already have." That night, Joseph's assistant, the one he trusted most, leaked a twisted version of their park meeting to the tabloids, the betrayal cutting deeper than any boardroom loss. The price of his indecision was mounting, and the city lights seemed to judge him from every window. The charity gala at the Metropolitan Museum was supposed to be Joseph's redemption stage. Black tie and flashing cameras. Investors watching his every move. Samuel was there too, hired last minute as event photographer, his camera a shield as he moved through the crowd. When their eyes met across the marble hall, the air thickened. Joseph stepped to the microphone for his speech. The room hushed, but the words he had rehearsed died on his tongue. Instead, he spoke of authenticity, of the cost of hiding, his voice cracking as he glanced at Samuel. The room erupted in murmurs, investors shifting uncomfortably, his mother texting furiously from her table. Later in a side gallery, Joseph found Samuel alone among the ancient statues. "I meant what I said up there," Joseph whispered. "I'm tired of paying this price." Samuel set the camera down, then stopped paying it alone. Their hands met, the touch brief but electric. The romantic promise of years ago resurfacing in the quiet space. But Joseph's phone buzzed with news that 2 major contracts had been pulled. The financial cost immediate and staggering. He left the gala with Samuel's numbers saved, the internal war raging hotter than ever. The board called an emergency meeting at dawn. The losses mounting. Joseph's empire cracking under the weight of truth. His daughter flew home from college, hugging him tightly. "Dad, be who you are. We'll figure the rest out." His mother, however, threatened to disown him publicly. Joseph spent the day in his office, staring at the old photo on his desk, the decisions of the past and present colliding. He drove to Samuel's apartment that evening, rain streaking the windows of his car. When Samuel opened the door, Joseph stepped inside without invitation. "I lost the Tokyo deal today. 20 million. Because of me." Samuel made coffee, the small kitchen warm against the storm outside. They talked through the night, Joseph finally voicing the fear that had ruled him for a decade. Samuel sharing how prejudice had shaped but never broken him. As dawn broke, they stood at the window, the city waking below, and Joseph allowed himself to lean into Samuel's shoulder, the gesture small but monumental, the romantic connection deepening through honesty rather than escape. The price was clear. The empire might shrink, the family might fracture, but the self he had buried was stirring back to life. The final confrontation came at the annual shareholder meeting, the grand ballroom packed with suits and flashing phones. Joseph stood at the podium, the board glaring from the front row, his mother in the second. "I have lived a lie for too long," he said, voice steady for the first time in years. "I mocked a good man because I was terrified of being him. That ends today." Gasps rippled through the room as he gestured to Samuel standing quietly at the back, camera in hand. Investors shouted questions. Some walked out. But Joseph kept speaking, detailing the moral cost of every denial, the human price of every prejudice he had echoed. Samuel watched, pride and worry mixing on his face. Outside afterward, they walked the rain-slicked streets, Joseph's phone silent for the first time in days. "I may lose the company," he said. Samuel took his hand openly on the sidewalk. "But you won't lose yourself." The betrayal by his assistant had cost him millions. The family rift would take years to heal. But the awakening felt worth every dollar and every tear. Weeks later, the penthouse felt different, lighter. The walls no longer a prison. Joseph had stepped down as CEO. The company surviving, but smaller. His mother still distant, but his daughter visiting often with quiet support. Samuel moved some of his things in, the two men building something new on the ruins of the old life. Their evenings filled with long talks on the terrace, hands linked as the skyline glowed. The romantic bond that had survived betrayal and time now grew in the open, tender and real, paid for with lost contracts, fractured family ties, and public scrutiny that would never fully fade. Joseph looked at Samuel one golden evening, the same light that had once illuminated their college photo, now bathing the city they both loved. "I mocked you because I hated the part of me that loved you," he said softly. "The price was almost everything. But keeping you is worth the rest." Samuel smiled, pulling him close. "We both paid. Now we choose what comes next." As the sun set behind the skyscrapers, Joseph felt the weight of his choices settle into something like peace. True or false, when fear and family pressure force a man to mock the very love he once cherished? Can a single honest awakening ever fully redeem the harm done? Or does society always demand a heavier price than any one person can pay?